Hello and welcome to Focus On the AGRF 2021 Summit that brings together all stakeholders to unlock the political, policy, financial commitments as well as innovations the continent has made and that it continues to work towards to achieve a resilient and robust food system for all. We have the Acting Managing Director of AGRF, Jennifer Baarn, with us to tell us more about the summit and what to expect in the coming days. Welcome to CNBC Africa, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here and good morning from Nairobi.
Well, good morning to you. Let's get right into it. What does the theme of this year's AGRF Summit stand for? What do you mean by resilience and recovery in food systems?
So together with the Kenyan government and the partners of the AGRF, we selected the theme Pathways to Recovery and Resilient Food Systems. And we've done this for several reasons. This is really a year of momentum. It is a year of food systems transformation as we are working towards the UN Food Systems Summit in September. The AGRF conference this year aims to elevate a single coordinated African voice to the UN Food Systems Summit. In addition as well, this is the year, the second year that we're in the COVID pandemic. And what the pandemic has done is that it really amplified a number of underlying issues that are impacting the resilience of our farmers, our SMEs, and our food value chains altogether.
So in combination with the pandemic and the climate impact that one is to expect in the coming years, and it's already showing effect right now in Africa, what are some of the glaring gaps that you've noticed in food systems in Africa?
Well, of course, significantly. Already we have almost a 20 to $30 billion investment gap in African food systems, thinking about infrastructure, access to finance, you name it, digitization. What the pandemic has done is that it really has amplified and made very visible some of the weaknesses that we have. Just thinking about a couple of statistics, right? Because we've been doing surveys across the continent. Over 60% of the SMEs that we're working with have reported revenue loss of 40% or more. 40% have considered and are considering or are closing some of their business ventures and activities. We've also seen other types of impacts in our value chains, labor shortages, challenges in accessing credit, a halt towards investments and all type of due diligence that was critical to increasing the investments into the agriculture sector.
So what kind of finance methods do you think are key today to agricultural development in Africa when it comes to microfinancing for small landholders or SMEs or women-owned businesses? What are some of these areas where, or a combination of these methods that one needs to focus on now going forward?
Points that you mentioned, a combination of these methods, and I think that is critical. We need to have a holistic approach towards food systems transformation. That also means that we need to have a holistic approach, almost like an ecosystem perspective, in terms of how we are supporting our farmers and our SMEs to transform. We have an agribusiness deal room where companies, governments, major buyers, and all kinds of other actors like development partners come together as an ecosystem to really facilitate SMEs through their entire growth stage. We do matchmaking with investors, with lenders, but also think about startups and young people who all they have is an idea. We connect them to angel investors, to knowledge partners, to new initiatives. So one of the things that we are trying to do is make sure that we bring the ecosystem together to in an integrated manner, talk about all of these different items and to also match different actors together. So I think that is one. How can you ensure that there's stronger connectivity? Number two is also just raising awareness, also within the financial system in terms of what are the different solutions required? How do we manage and mitigate risk across the value chain? So for example, one of the things that we will be discussing at the AGRF as well are bankability metrics. We all know that many financial institutions see the agriculture sector as high risk, struggle to identify risk mitigators, struggle basically with the transaction cost. Even when it comes to a micro investment, micro loan, it might take as much paperwork as well as human resources as a more significant and sizable transaction. So one of the things that we are discussing at this year's AGRF is also the credibility, the accountability metrics. So with young entrepreneurs and farmers as well, to almost create a closed loop where offtake contracts can be used as a collateral for input financing, etc. There are quite a number of these initiatives that are going on across the continent. The challenge is always how do you scale that across not just 5,000 farmers, but 5 million.
I'm glad you mentioned the risk factor to agricultural development and just in general the industry today. Like we spoke about climate impact going forward. So what kind of role do you think incentives, subsidies, and especially insurance will play, and where will this money come from? How to secure this system?
So I think when we're talking about risk mitigation and management, when we talk about investments, I think what is always critical to take a step back, and one of the things that I always say is, one, we need a holistic approach. The entire ecosystem needs to be aligned in terms of what the priorities are, and we should put collaboration first. What we often come across is that along the value chain, you will have a development partner program focusing on X, the government investing in road Y, investors looking at a completely different set. How can we actually co-design and co-create from the onset so that all partners are buying into specific projects, initiatives, and programs? We have seen the last year a strong emergence of public-private partnership, multi-stakeholder partnerships, and I would strongly advocate that actually happens. Where are some of the successes? What needs to happen to scale that? And who can be involved in this? In the upcoming AGRF, we will have also commitments and announcement towards food systems transformation. We are expecting billions of dollars to be committed by partners across the ecosystem into this. And what we are advocating for, co-creation, co-design, co-implementation, and let's hold each other jointly accountable.
That's brilliant to hear. Billions of dollars to be invested in the agricultural community. What do you think is that going to do for women in agriculture and the youth in agriculture? What role do they play and in overall development once they are empowered?
So for this AGRF 2021, we are really so appreciative of working together with the government of Kenya, who are hosting this event. And His Excellency Kenyatta has emphasized to all of us the importance, the critical importance of engaging youth and making them aware of what food systems transformation entails. So you will see in the coming week throughout the program, you will see our youth everywhere. They will be interviewing and challenging leaders, other actors, being it corporate leaders, government leaders, parliamentarians. It's a youth who will be at the forefront and asking them these questions. What is it that you've done for us lately? How are you working through our priorities? And what can we expect from you in the coming 10 years? So that is number one. With regards to women SMEs, I think that's also very critical. Women are actually I always say the double implementer when it comes to food security. The majority of our farmers in the field are women. The people who are preparing our food are women. So if we want to have a double impact in terms of our food security and make sure that it's affordable, that it's available, and that it's nutritious, we really have to target women.
AFCFTA agreement plays, what kind of role does it play in taking these initiatives further?
So the African Continental Free Trade Area, it's a significant opportunity, and I just can't emphasize it enough. You know that at the moment as we speak, the continent is importing $35 billion of food every year, and we expect this to rise to $110 billion in the coming 20 years. From all different aspects, that is just not acceptable, given the fact that the majority of that a significant part of our rural population is so dependent on agriculture and a significant part of our economies as well. So we definitely see significant opportunities there. It will definitely benefit agribusinesses because it will ease access, hopefully, to markets. It will also provide preferential treatment for regional trade and integrations. And when all of these businesses are flourishing and our farmers are flourishing, it will have a significant impact on the economy and job opportunities as well. Having said that, though, once again, I think what is critical, harmonization and implementation. The paperwork is there, the intent is there. What this needs to translate into is all the micro decisions that have to be made by perhaps millions of civil servants across the continent and political leaders in terms of making this happen. That's number one. And number two is also just the implementation and the follow-up.
I read another interesting bit from the AGRF program for the summit this week. What is the Chef's Manifesto?
We often, when we convene as a continent to talk about food, it's about the challenges and the difficulties, etc. We also want to bring in the element of food as culture, food as a social experience. And that's why we have invited the chefs. It's their second year in a row that they're at the AGRF. They were preparing meals online. They will talk about their food experience. They will reflect from their own perspective on some of the challenges and the opportunities that this continent has when it comes to food systems transformation.
It seems that the AGRF Summit 2021 is almost a lead up to the UN Food Summit. So what I want to ask you is, what are some key commitments and negotiations that you see coming out of AGRF and that you would like to take to the UN Food Summit this year?
So I think a lot, because, and that's really also how we have positioned the AGRF this year. We have invited over 30 ministers to participate in our ministerial roundtable. We have 15 countries whose UN Food Systems Summit national dialogue leads will be participating and will be reporting out, will be reflecting on what has been happening in those dialogues, and will engage with other stakeholders on these different priorities. We're working very closely also with the African Union, also a partner of the AGRF, to support and facilitate all of that as well. Moreover, what we will also do is all of these priorities that are coming out of the different countries, will make sure that it's complementary to commitments of other partners like the private sector, development partners, and others as well. Our agribusiness deal room is coordinating and bringing together close to 1,000 companies, from small SME startups to larger firms, plus 15 to 17 governments who will all be championing an investment pipeline of $5 billion and will be matched with several investors. It's a longer term commitment that we're doing in terms of making the investment pipeline visible to the rest of the world as well. We'll also talk about accountability. And how will we hold each other accountable as we convene every year at the AGRF in terms of what the progress is, not just in general by tracking generic indicators such as increased trade and reduction in hunger, etc., but also the specific pledges that are being made by participants, governments, politicians, corporate leaders alike.
That's right. This is indeed our time, especially in the age of climate impact. Food security is paramount. Thank you so much for joining us.